a believer in accountability. Okay, so this woman is appointed chair of the RNC, Republican National Committee, in 2017. Let's just do the math. It's not that complicated. 2018, loss. 2020, loss. 2022, no red wave. 2023, bad trouncing. So insanity is expecting a different conclusion unless you're going to make a change. This is the person who's running the Republican National Committee. She comes in, she's just like trying to give me a hug. I'm like, I'll give you a handshake. And I was just like, how are you doing? And she's like, how are you doing? I was like, not great. I mean, the election didn't go very well last night. She's not great given last night. And I'm not even kidding you. Here's what she says. What happened last night?
Oh my God.
No, I'm not kidding. So I thought she was joking. So I'm just like, yeah. She's like, no, but seriously, what happened last night?
All right, folks. Well, today I want to discuss a little bit of this GOP drama between Vivek Ramaswamy and the failed chairwoman of the RNC, Ronna Romney. People forget that is indeed her maiden name. Hint, hint, Ronna Romney McDaniel. And as you may remember at Wednesday's debate, Vivek went out there on the stage and basically called out what he called a proven track record of failure, which is to say, forget how you personally feel about Ronna McDaniel. You can even put aside the Romney connections and the connections to the establishment. It is simply an objective fact that ever since she took over the GOP in 2017, Republicans have basically lost every single election, right? 2018, 2020, of course, 2022, which I think was the biggest proving moment for her because that was an election we were supposed to win. That was supposed to be a red wave. As you know, it was a red puddle. In many ways, it was largely embarrassing for the Republican Party. And of course, I think most Republican voters honestly agree the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over again and expecting different results. And it is an objective fact that ever since Ronna McDaniel took over the RNC, Republicans have not done well in elections. Her specific and basically only job is to make sure that Republicans win elections. And Vivek basically went out and said what a lot of people thought, which is, look, why is this woman, especially after Tuesday's election results, where we again lost, we again did poorly, why is Ronna McDaniel still leading the Republican Party? And that was Wednesday night. Now, Thursday, Cassandra McDonald from Timcast reported that apparently Ronna was not happy about this, which is, of course, understandable. What's completely indefensible is the fact that apparently she had a very public meltdown right in front of everyone. Okay, remember, she's supposed to be the representative of the GOP at this debate. She's in the middle of the audience here. And this is reported. A source who was sitting near the GOP chairwoman told Timcast News that she called Vivek Ramaswamy, quote, an a-hole. Again, right in the middle of the debate, she was screaming this, an a-hole, and declared that the party would not be giving him 1 cent. Okay, so I understand that backdoor politics happens, and this is not surprising. But again, right in front of everyone, she very corruptly goes out and says, this candidate's not getting a cent from us. We're going to actively treat him unfairly as a party. Again, not a very good look. Frankly, quite embarrassing behavior, to say the least. And McDaniel went on to say, he's an a-hole, total a-hole. He's desperate because he's doing bad in the polls. He won't be getting a cent from us. Again, this would be corrupt if it happened in private. But I reiterate, these things happened in public, in the middle of the Republican debate on Wednesday. She went on to also loudly boo him during his exchange with Nikki Haley, according to one person sitting nearby. And again, remember, the RNC chairwoman is supposed to be sort of the neutral, impartial chair that's just kind of hosting this debate. Here she is, apparently within earshot of at least 50 people, having a complete meltdown, booing Vivek, dead center of the Republican debate. Okay, so not only does she suck as the chairwoman, not only is she just flat out ineffective, she is here in the middle of the audience, creating a scene and embarrassing the Republican Party when she's supposed to be representing the Republican Party. And we're going to play here Vivek Ramaswamy. He went on the PBD podcast and discussed all of that. That'll be our main reaction today. But I do really want to briefly play Ronna McDaniel's just embarrassing response to all of this. Okay, so she was on Laura Ingraham, and Laura asked her the question that Vivek posed to her, which is, Republicans keep losing ever since you've led this party. Why should you chair the party? Listen to her incoherent, awful meltdown response to all of this.
All right, joining me now, Ronna McDaniel, chairwoman of the Republican National Committee. Ronna, thanks so much for being with us. Vivek and others are saying that under your leadership, Republicans have lost election after election.
True.
And positing the question, why should you retain your job given the track record of the party under your leadership? And
especially after we lost on Tuesday again. Right? There's not a single election cycle that's went well for her, including this one, 2023, right?
to that, what do you say?
Well, first, I'm going to continue to focus on Joe Biden and Democrats. And I think there was a moment missed during that debate by Vivek to talk about the fact that we still have 13 American hostages in Israel. The fact that for the first time ever in the history of either party, we had a Jewish co-sponsor for a debate, and we are in very perilous times in our country. And I do think
oh my gosh, we had a Jewish co-sponsor for the debate, guys. This is literally the left-wing tactic of, you know how when everything's failing or everything sucks, they just say, okay, but at least we have diversity, okay? Yeah, the economy's doing terrible. Didn't Biden do this? But at least we have like the first black lesbian immigrant black press secretary. That's the exact same thing. That's the exact same thing here, okay? Oh, the GOP's doing terrible. What do you have to say about that? Well, at least we had the first Jewish sponsor of the debate. Wow. Good job, guy. Wow, that really answers the question, right? So you basically get the idea here, okay? This is her. These are her tactics. Apparently her leadership strategy for the GOP is, again, we keep losing elections. You're not doing a good job at your job. But at least we have a Jewish sponsor for the debate, guys. Yay! All right, with that said, I want to get in here. Again, Vivek was on the PBD podcast. He basically recounts the entire story here with Ronna McDaniel, and this is kind of the follow-up here. Let's get into this, shall we? Here's his side of the story. I think just by now. All right.
The story you're talking about right here.
Yeah,
right?
people already know what we're talking about.
Asshole, total asshole.
So just so people, if they didn't watch the debate the other night or whatever, I am a believer in accountability.
Right.
Okay, so this woman is appointed chair of the RNC, Republican National Committee, in 2017. Let's just do the math. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
2018, loss.
Lost.
2020, loss.
Lost.
2022, no red wave.
Lost.
2023, bad trouncing.
Lost. 0-4.
So insanity is expecting a different conclusion unless you're going to make a change. This is the person who's running the Republican National Committee.
Right.
So that had happened the night before the debate, the 2023 trouncing.
Right.
So I went on stage and said, when nobody else, every other candidate's supposed to delicately tiptoe around the genteel norms of the RNC. And it's not like I surprised her with this. Okay.
Right.
We actually, I haven't talked about this before.
Okay.
So we had a debate walkthrough. You kind of go through in the morning of. I'm not making this up. It's like, I wish there was no cameras allowed in there. We can catch this. She comes in. She's just like trying to give me a hug. I'm like, I'll give you a handshake. And I was just like, how are you doing? And she's like, how are you doing? I was like, not great. I mean, the election didn't go very well last night. She's not great given last night. And I'm not even kidding you. Here's what she says. What happened last night?
Oh my God.
No, I'm not kidding. So I thought.
What happened last night? Again, if you weren't really paying attention on Tuesday, the GOP just lost a bunch of elections. Okay, long story short, we can get into the reasons why. That's what happened, though. And her response as the chairwoman of the RNC, okay? What do you mean what happened last night? That's the mentality, too, leading the GOP. You wonder why you lose. You don't have winners leading the party. Because anyone who responds like that, even if you want to say it's not my fault, blah, 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 it's the RGA's fault, not the RNC, fundamentally, okay? I like winners, okay? And I like people with winning mentalities. If that's your response, again, even if you want to claim it's not your fault, what do you mean what happened? We did fine. No. You shouldn't be happy, frankly, if you're, again, leading the Republican Party with losing any election that's remotely in range of winning. And yet, okay, I mean, there you go. Sums it up, right?
I thought she was joking. So I'm just like, yeah. She's like, no, but seriously, what happened last night? And then she got kind of combative about it.
Who's around when this is happening?
Oh, like people from NBC, other like staffers from the Republican
She
Party.
came to want to give you a hug. You said, I'll give you a handshake.
Yeah. So I'll give you a handshake.
Have you guys had any feud prior to this or
No, but I believe in, well, we have, not multiple actually. Because it's not personal. It's the failure of how she leads this party. I mean, number one, at the start of this race, I said, release the debate stage criteria so you don't play games later. I believe that played a role. And she was just like, no, but they actually released it earlier than they did last time around because I believe I called on them to. So they released it at least earlier. So I gave credit where credit was due when they at least responded. First, she was like, no, we're not going to do it. We're staying radio silent. But I believe I had an impact on that. And I gave credit where credit was due. So that loop was closed. Then Fox calls me after the second debate and Chris Christie and say, hey, would you spar with Chris Christie or have a open dialogue since the second debate? I mean, the unspoken reality is that was useless. So I said I would do it. The night before, Ronna McDaniel calls me on my cell phone and says, you will be disqualified from the next debate if you participate in this discussion with Chris Christie. I said, Ronna, how does this advance the interests of the GOP? Like the GOP voter base. How is the GOP voter base better off if we hear less debate between the candidates? Explain that to me.
How does it even hurt her side of it? Right? It helps the voters because you have more discussion. It gets ratings, it gets content, etc. But they're not trying to do this during the other GOP debate. They're talking about a separate event where two candidates are going to debate. To my understanding, both Vivek and Chris Christie were down to do it. And she just steps in to say, no, you can't do that. Why? Because it's not within my Republican debate. So again, folks, this is who's chairing the Republican Party. Okay? Her focus clearly is not winning elections, because if it was, forget even the results. She would have a mentality of at least saying, yeah, that was bad. I agree. We got to do better. Her focus is not winning elections. Her focus is instead trying to shut down random events all over ego or whatever it is. This is just disgraceful. It's disgraceful.
No good explanation. But regardless, that raised some of my recent sparring with her in public. But this has nothing to do with me and her. What happened on the night before the debate was the Republican Party nationally got trounced. And everybody, if
destroyed, Kentucky.
Totally destroyed. Virginia, I mean, kind of Ohio, you just go, these are red states, okay? Kentucky and Ohio, certainly. And so I'm walking in, this is the morning after that trouncing. This is the chairwoman of the Republican National Committee. She's coming, she's like, hey, how are you? I'm like, I'll give you a handshake. She's like, how you doing? I said, not that well, given that last night didn't go very well. She says, what happened last night?
Like oblivious. Is she saying it jokingly?
No, she's saying it almost angrily, right? Because I was like, the last night didn't go well. So she's challenging me. She says, well, what happened last night?
Oh, okay.
Like, what happened last night? I don't know what happened last night. Tell me what happened last night. Yeah. And I'm just like, this is the person who's accountable for running the Republican Party. I said, well, last election, she said, we have nothing to do with that.
Really?
I run the National Party. These are state races. We have nothing to do with that. So where's and then says and then starts to like escalate her voice and says, I refuse to fall on the sword for this one. I refuse to fall on the sword for this one. This is not my fault. And it's like, okay, clearly she's been criticized.
How many minutes before you hit the?
Okay, again, right? Even if that's somewhat true, okay, there is a connect. I'm not saying it's one-to-one, but there's a connection between how local Republican parties do and national Republican parties, because, it's a national environment in some senses. Okay, I understand what Ronna is saying. However, you were accountable for 2022. You were accountable for 2020. You were accountable for 2018. On top of that, again, let me reemphasize this, okay? Winners win, all right? And winners care, okay? So even if you want to say that wasn't directly on me, you should still be saying, but it's not good. We need to do better. All right. Help the local Republican parties out, whatever. I'm just saying fundamentally that mentality of every time Republican lose, she wants to point fingers at someone else or something instead of just saying we need to do better. That's how even on a mentality level, you don't have a winner or a person who thinks in terms of winning leading the Republican Party. Because if you had someone as the RNC chairperson who actually cared, then even if it weren't directly on them, they wouldn't get snappy when you say, oh, we lost the election. They'd say, look, it wasn't directly on me. Maybe you could say that. But you'd also say it's not an excuse. We need to do better because this is a continuous trend, right? This is not an anomaly. This is a continued trend you're seeing in all these elections. But again, you do not have a winner leading the party. You can tell not just by the track record, which I think does speak for itself, but also by the attitude, by her attitude. She does not have a winning attitude. And then you see losing results on so many levels. She must be disqualified, but here you go.
The stage is this happening?
Oh, this is like early. This is in the morning, right?
Okay,
like
pre-game prep. Yeah,
you kind of go through. They show you where you're going to be standing. Here's your microphone.
Yep.
So that's where this happens. So it's not like I surprised her on the stage.
Got it.
All right, she knew where I'm at on this.
She had already had a long morning with this topic.
Oh, of course, and should. I mean, 2018 loss, 2020 loss, 2022 no red wave, 2023 trouncing, total drubbing for the Republican Party. This is the individual who's the national chairwoman. She runs the entire Republican National Committee. Where's the accountability? So I get on stage and you're getting some standard, beaten dead old horse Donald Trump question. I said, forget that. Let's talk about what happened last night. Because the last two elections he's been out, Republicans have gotten trounced for different reasons. So stop blaming the boogeyman.
Yeah.
There's an accountability problem within the Republican Party.
And she reflects that.
So I say on stage that Ronna McDaniel, if she wanted to come up on stage, and I meant it, if she did want to come up on stage, debate stage time is valuable, but I would still yield my time to her if she wants to use the microphone, look the American people in the eye, and say she resigns, which would be good for the Republican Party. And I believe she should resign.
Yeah.
So what does she say? So then the press reports there's people apparently sitting in her row or behind her row in front of her where she is. Think about this, the neutral arbiter of the Republican National Committee later in the debate when I'm sparring with other candidates, booing when I'm speaking, clapping against other candidates when they're speaking against me. So
she was booing?
Yeah,
who was booing?
She's booing me at other points in the debate. And I don't care about that, but think about your dereliction of duty. Yeah. You're supposedly the neutral arbiter of the entire National Republican Party hosting a debate. It's like a referee cheering in the middle of a game between two teams. It doesn't make sense. Like if the referee is like booing or hollering in favor of one team or the other.
Exactly.
That's what that looks like
look.
if she's the arbiter.
The bad look.
She's saying during the breaks, and this is as reported by the press, so I wasn't there, but it's apparently sources who are around her, reported by multiple sources in the press, saying that I would not get another cent from the RNC.
Yep.
So think about what that means. That means she believes that's her money. Right? These are donations she's collected from other people, but somebody said a mean thing about her, and it's not even a mean thing about her. Someone said that we need accountability in the Republican Party, that this person who has failed us 4 times in a row, that there needs to be some accountability. She says, if he says that about me, then this money that I have been a steward for, a fiduciary for, that I'm not going to give a cent to him because he said something that I didn't like about me. That's a conflict of interest.
Yep.
So then I get a question after the debate in the press room. I don't know who it came from, but I'm presuming it's from one of the RNC aligned people, which is, how come you would go on Ronna's stage, on her stage is what they said, on her stage and criticize her like that? My response is, that's not her stage, and that's the problem with this party. It doesn't belong to these corrupt establishment political creatures. It belongs to the voters and the people of this country. And that's where the Republican Party is badly mixed up.
I think you basically get the idea. That sums it up. If you weren't anti-Ronna McDaniel based on the results already, which, I think, again, speak for themselves, I think you also can tell a lot by the way she responds to them. Okay? Right? Because, think about like a winning athlete. Do they say that after a loss, like a legendary athlete? Do they fail to take accountability? Do they blame someone else? No, right? And the winning mentality in many ways is universal. So you can look at the results and say, oh, that's not necessarily her fault, although in many ways they are. But if you look at the way she follows up, I think this, if anything, exposed her almost as much as the results themselves over the past couple of years. Because it shows how she feels about them, right? Point the blame. No, I'm like Barbie girl boss with the money, with the RNC. All ego, all, just bitter, terrible mentality, terrible everything. This person cannot be leading the Republican Party if they want a shot in 2024. Okay? That's just the truth. I don't know what else to say. It speaks for itself. And then she goes on and they ask her, what about the results? What are you doing? Okay. And what's her response? Her response is literally like the liberal meme of it, but we had diversity at the debate. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, that said, folks, let me know what you think of this entire situation in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let me know if you think Ronna McDaniel should be fired. And until next time, Alpha Moves only. God bless. Happy Veterans Day and peace.